So now we know how to upload and wire all this Arduino to this to send our code. Once we have our code, let me delete this. Uh, Once we delete this, we can actually have a project here, right? So let's say we upload all the code, and we know it's going to work, right? Because we coded it, right? um, your job today is to do the candle flicker here. So you're definitely gonna need some basic stuff for that, like 3 LEDs for the candle flicker. I don't know if you can change the color of them here, but in real life we'll definitely have I think it's the 2 yellows and 1 red or something like that. Oh, you can't change it right here. So we'll, change the 2 yellows and yellow and 1 red or whatever, but it doesn't really matter too much because we can change that in real life really easily. And you'll have your three LEDs here. Let's say there's one here. And I got to put them in different spots because, oops, I want to put them in different spots as I don't want to, connect them together in one row. For example, if I put them all here, they're all going to turn on at the same time. So I need them kind of isolated. And then, of course, I do need their negatives all to go back to one negative. So that I can actually put to one row. For example, I can send all their negatives. I'm trying not to cross wires if I don't have to, but here I'm going to cross that wire. So there we go. So they're all here, and we'll send that negative up there. You'll need a power supply, of course, so I'm going to put power supply. Here's one right there. There's a nice one. We'll set it to 5 volts. That's the appropriate one. And we can put the negative over here and the positive right here. And if you want to make sure the positive here goes to here, you can do that, and the negative here goes here. And that way, we know all the power rails are ready to go when needed. Also, please note the Attiny will not work unless it gets power. See, power here, ground here. So make sure that this one has ground, and you see this one says power. It actually tells you which each pin is. That's pin 0, pin 1, pin 2, pin 3. It's kind of out of order. Pin 4, pin 5, and that's it. It only has 5 pins. Well, technically it has 6 pins because this one's pin 0, so that's 6. Here, 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 and here. So 0 through 5 make 6 pins. The other 2 pins you can't mess with as far as you can't use them as inputs and outputs. They just have positive if you need it, and they have negative if you need it, and that's it. Now, let's say I'm going to use these 3 pins. I can do it all right here. I don't need to do this as long as they have pulse width modulation. Which pins here have PWM though? So let's look up Attiny85, and then we can say, here we go. Here's a good one. Maybe all of the pins have it. So I'm going to say Attiny85 pinouts. And it should tell us which ones have PWM, if not all of them. PWM, pulse width modulation. In Arduino Uno, it's the one with the squiggly lines next to them. Here's one right here. Pin 0. SDA. Maybe they can all do PWM. Here's one with even more detail. Let's see this one. This one looks super detailed. This one's a little hard to read, so I'm going to zoom in for everybody. And it looks like this is port pin, ground power, Arduino pin, analog. Oh, here we go. Timer, PWN pin. So if you look at the purple timer PWN pins, it may be only those ones that can do it. PWM pin is pink. Oh, there's no pink here. Here we go. Oh, here we go. PWM. So it looks like there's 4 pins that hit PWM. Gosh, I had to look pretty far to find that. Look at all this stuff. So it looks like if we go by this one here, we can definitely, oh, this is the 84. This one has a lot more pins. Let's look for the 85. Here we go. This looks like the 85 right here. This is the 85, 45, 85. So I guess this is true for the 45 and the 85. So it looks like pin 0 does it, pin 1 does it, and pin 4, PB4, and PB3. So 3, 4, 0, and 1. So just as long as we don't use the 2 or the 5, it looks like we'll be okay. Those ones are the ones that can't do pulse width modulation. So it's good to look these up, these pinouts, and see what pins can do what, as not every pin is always capable of everything. For example, if we need analog, ADC, analog to digital converter, ADC, 1, 2, 3, 4. Only these 4 do it. This one here, P2, and 5, 3, and 4. So the red ones right here, the analog, see it says analog. Only those ones can do it. Although this one, I don't know what these mean because these are red. I'm not sure. But ADC means analog to digital converter. That means the ones that use potentiometers or light sensors. On Arduinos, they're the ones that say A0, I think, and A2 and A1 and A3. There's like 4 or 5 of pins on Arduino Uno that can do that. So we got to know what pins can do what. So definitely this is important. So in other words, just do not use pin 5 or 2 because they don't do the PWM. Okay, according to this. So knowing that, let's go back here. And so we're not going to use the 2 or the 5 right here. So these ones do not use. So we'll use these 2, a 0 and a 1. So by the way, you could put a resistor to here. That's probably a good idea. You can try it without it, and we'll see if it burns it out. If not, make sure you have a resistor on the way. Then this one can go to here, and this one will go to, let's see if I can bend it, to here. So I'm not using the 5, and I'm not using the 2. I'm using 0, 1, and 3. 0, 1, and 3. And if you go to the code, right here, we want to go to, not blocks, we want to go to text code. We're not dealing with blocks. And we can kind of copy and paste our code here. Please note that they're using pin 0 to make this light blink. If you want to see if I wired this right, we can actually just start simulation and see. There we go. This light is blinking. It's probably warning me that I don't have a resistor, so I'm kind of burning it up here. And that's why the current goes a little too high. As you can see, when it turns on, the current kind of goes up. Also, you can also see that when the light's not even on, that this Attiny is expecting at 5 volts to use about 8 milliamps of electricity, current, when it's not in use. So it does use electricity even though it's not using it, just to think, you know? And so here's our exclamation point. Let's see. It said what it was. I'm sure it's just that I don't have a resistor, but it looks like it'll work anyway. If you want to be lazy, that's okay. In real life, we'll definitely put a resistor there because we want to not burn our LEDs out and ruin our Attiny85 or anything like that. So pretty much here is just make sure you're using pins 0, 1, and 3. Remember, because those are the ones I'm using. I'm using 0, 1. I'm not using 2, and I'm not using 5. I'm using 3 right here. So make sure that those are the 3 you're using. And you're going to go ahead and look up candle flicker Arduino, and or you can just look at your old projects and what you submitted to me and see what code you did and copy and paste that. That's totally okay. And just search one of these projects up. This one they use 3 lights, and they're using 3 pins right here. This is the common ground, which is normal, so it's just using these 3 pins. You'll have to change those values, and you can kind of just copy and paste, the code. Remember, all it does is it's using 3 pins, and you're going to be 0, 1, and 3, I believe, and they're all going to be outputs. You could actually just change it here, actually, because right here it says LED pin 2, LED pin 3. Just put in 0, 1, and 3 here. That should work fine. I will remind you, though, that it will give you an error if you try to print. So if you ever use print serial or anything, serial.print, that won't work because the Arduino Attiny85 can't handle printing to consoles or nothing like that since there's no USB port on it. So, we got the setup where we just say they're all outputs, and then of course we just write analog write to them. Analog writing means we can change how bright they are, and for that we just say what pin we're sending it to, and what brightness we want, and we're doing random brightnesses to cause that flicker. So go ahead and copy and paste this code in there, see if it's working. If it's all working, then go ahead and upload a picture of it working with your code. In other words, I see your name here. You can add that name by clicking this text box right here. Add your name here, and make sure your power supply is here, that everything's wired correctly, and your code is up. And if you could kind of zoom in a little bit so I can see everything nice and neat, and have that code here, this here, and I can see everything's done, and that's all I'm looking for.